Welcome to the Franchise Frontier, the podcast where we explore the evolving franchise landscape, dive into latest industry trends, and share actionable tools and tactics to help you build and grow your business.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Franchise Frontier podcast. I'm Dave Camaro, the host. Here we explore the world of business ownership, unlocking keys to success while uncovering plans and what to avoid and whatnot. Today, we're excited to welcome Chris Rahill, owner of Mighty Dog Roofing of Bucks County, PA. Chris was an early franchisee for the Mighty Dog Roofing brand, and we can't wait to dive into the insights and see what Chris has to bring. So, Chris, welcome.
Dave, thanks for having me, man. It's good to talk to you.
So, when you look back at your journey, right, talk about what you thought you were going to do, in college or whatever you did, and then think about where you came to now. Talk about your journey a little bit, kind of what inspired you to become a business owner, and how did you get to where we are today?
Yeah, man. So kind of a long story, I guess, but I'll make it short. So out of school, I had one job. I was doing financial advising for like a year, and then didn't really like that, right? Wanted to be in sales. Since a young age, knew I always wanted to have my own business. Never really knew what it would be. I just always knew like I want to run my own thing. So, I got a job working at a company called Benetrends Financial, which is a franchise financing company. And so, I started working there when I was probably 20, 23, and really just kind of immersed me in the whole world of franchising. Didn't know really anything about franchising before I started working there, and didn't realize all the options you have if you want to own a business, right? I always thought if you want to own a business, you got to think of an idea and you start a company and then you have a business. But then I started working there and I'm like, oh, wow, you can really do whatever you want. There's millions of options of different businesses you could buy if you want to go the franchise route. So I learned a ton there, built a lot of great relationships while I was working there, and just learned a ton about the franchise world. While I was working there, me and my older brother bought a franchise that was a like seal coating and line striping business. So we bought that business. I was still working at my job. He had another business he was doing, and we were kind of doing this on the side as like partners for this business that we bought. And I just loved it, dude. Like I just fell in love with the home service world, running my own company, being out there selling, knocking on doors. Like I just was like, this is what I want to be doing. But I didn't necessarily want to do it in that business. I didn't like love that business. I just loved having a business in home services. So that's when I started to think about, okay, like what do I want to do? And started to research different businesses and talk to people in the franchise world, people like Josh and others who I had built good relationships with when I was working at Benetrends, and just talk to people about, different options that are out there and what I wanted to do. And I was pretty certain I wanted to be in home services. And so started to research a lot of different things, and kind of landed on roofing, man. And it was funny, like was looking into roofing and was like, this is a great business. Like maybe this is something I would want to do. And then around that same time, I'm talking to Josh and he starts telling me that, hey, like we got this new brand called Mighty Dog Roofing. Like we got horsepower brands. It's going to have a bunch of home service companies. And I'm like, well, this is crazy because I was already looking for something new. And so it kind of like worked out for me. Like here was a business that kind of fit what I was looking for in terms of like, the income potential in the business, like the type of projects you're working on. Like I wanted to do something in home services where you're working on bigger projects, for customers. And here was a guy who I already liked and trusted, who was going to be kind of behind that brand. So that's why I really ended up going with Mighty Dog, was because really those two reasons. It did fit what I was looking for, but it was also important to me that the people who were behind the brand were people that I knew, because I had worked in franchising for 3 years prior to that and saw good and bad in the franchising world with franchisors. A lot of franchisors who I didn't think were doing things the right way, some who were. So it was important to me that if I was going to partner with a brand, like I knew the people behind it and I knew the mission and kind of the goals of those people. So the fact that Josh and Zach were behind the brand held a lot of weight for me. But yeah, I mean, I ended up going through that process with Mighty Dog at the end of 2020 And then very early 2021, I bought Mighty Dog March of 2021. So I just passed 4 years with the brand.
Congratulations on that, and congratulations on your success. You know, when I look back and I think about Mighty Dog Roofing in the beginning, and I remember you coming to Discovery Day, I definitely felt like it wasn't about, for you in that part, it wasn't about the brand. You knew what you wanted, you knew about the roof. It was really about the people. I felt like you took a lot of time to talk to the people, meet the people, and really get comfortable with what was going on as far as behind the scenes in the brand, because knowing you were going to end up working with those people, I thought that was really something that you really took a lot of ownership of and wanted to make sure it was correct.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's funny thinking back to that, man. Like being at that Discovery Day or the first academy. I mean, I think Horsepower had like 12 employees. Like you were there, right? But like it was like, and like to what it's grown to now is pretty crazy to think about. But yeah, it was all about the people for me. Like again, dude, I didn't know anything about roofing. So, and again, I love this business now, and I'm just grateful that I love the business. Like, but I just took a chance on this business being like, I hope I like roofing and siding and windows. Like, I hope I enjoy this stuff. And I really do now. But in the beginning, it was just about like, you know, having a business that kind of checked those boxes that I wanted and the people behind the brand. Again, another thing for me too was like, a lot of people will look at things differently of like, oh, I want a very established brand. I was kind of the opposite. Like, I loved that it was new. Like that was exciting to me that it was like, yo, I'm like the part of the first group here that's gonna get to help kind of shape where this brand goes. So I remember like the five of us first franchisees sitting in the room being like, this is cool. Like this is the whole organization right here, right now. And you knew it was gonna grow like crazy in the next couple of years, but to be there in the beginning was like exciting to me. It didn't bother me that it was new. I thought that was a cool opportunity because like you just said, like when it's small like that, you can really connect with everybody. And I felt like I had a personal relationship with everybody there, which was cool. So, but yeah, I mean, you hit it on the head. Like it was all about the people for me.
I mean, that's a great segue. So when we think back to that academy, right? Think back to that Discovery Day. Let's go into academy because I think this is important for people that are looking to possibly get into the home service space. When you came in and were doing stuff for academy, everybody that was there really, people were learning how to measure a roof. People were learning how to understand a shingle, understand drip edge, etc. So talk a little bit about, I know you probably didn't worry about it because you seem like someone who just has a really high level of figure it out. But at the same time, you really didn't have any roofing experience at all until you came to Academy and purchased Mighty Dog Roofing.
None, man, none. And yeah, it was fun, man, going out. Like we did during that academy, we went and measured some roofs. We did some takeoffs. Like we got up on a few roofs, and I was like, first time I'm ever walking on a roof measuring anything, right? And I'm like, this is about to be like my life now, like. But yeah, it was awesome, man. And again, it was fun. Like I liked being part of that early group. But I mean, what you just said is that's always been my mindset is like I'll figure it out, and we can kind of get to that and how I started my business, like with like the different things that were important to me early on when I didn't really know a lot about the industry. But yeah, I mean that those academy days was just kind of throwing yourself into the fire, man. Like knowing, okay, I don't know a lot about this business right now, but I trust the people here, and I know we're all going to work together to kind of figure it out. The franchisees, the early ones, like we were leaning on each other a ton in the beginning, which was cool. And I'm close with those guys still, like, Phil and Eric and Munchak. Like these are guys I still talk to now. And it's funny seeing where we're all at now compared to 4 years ago when we all showed up there, like all from different walks of life, different industries, different jobs, different ages, whatever. So it's cool, man. It's cool looking back on that now.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think back to that first academy, and I remember just being we went on a couple really basic roofs, and I remember we went on a couple doozies. I want to say we finished on a pretty big one. And I thought to myself, man, this is a difficult roof to measure on. So yeah, it's great to see you guys' success for everybody and how you guys are doing. So when you look back at that first year, right? I know you've come a long way from there, and I'm sure there's things you've forgotten. When you look back on that first year, like what were your biggest surprises and challenges?
Yeah, I mean, first year for me was crazy. I mean, when I started the business, I wanted it to be just me, right? I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm not hiring anybody. One, because I kind of had to, right? I was 25 years old. I had left my job. I'm like, I need to make money like soon. So and I wanted to throw myself into the fire and just really learn everything about the business. And so for me, the first year was crazy, man. Like it was so fun and crazy, but hard, and like it was just so like it was just mayhem for me, and I loved it. And I was talking about this with somebody recently, like, when you don't know a lot about the industry, I think you have to figure out how you're going to win business and how you're going to be competitive. I'm a 25-year-old kid. I didn't have any roofing experience, right? Like, how am I going to win jobs in my market against companies that have been around 50 years, third generation companies, right? Big companies, multiple sales reps out there. And so I knew I wasn't going to go into these appointments and I wasn't going to know the most. I wasn't going to be able to have the most jobs to show for or have the most years in business. But I was like, what I can do is be the best salesperson, show up on time, treat the customer the best, follow up, like do all those little things, because I know that like in other areas, I may fall shorter than the competition. And it was crazy to me early on, like how many jobs I was able to win just because like I showed up on time, because I answered the phone, because like I provided an estimate like right away to somebody and like called them to make sure they got it. And all these little things, right? Of just like customer service, like providing, like my goal early was like provide just excellent customer service. Like make this person like you so much that they have to go with you. And so that's kind of what I built the foundation of my business on. And to me, it was always like, those are effort things. Like those are things that you can just do regardless if you've been in the business 50 years or 5 months. Like those are effort things. And if I can build my business on that, like the knowledge will come. Like the industry knowledge will come between learning it myself, leaning on the franchisor for it, leaning on my guys that work for me have taught me so much. My suppliers, like everybody, it's like this team that you're all kind of learning the business together, and they taught me a ton. But because I like built the foundation of my business on that, like that became the most important thing and what we provide. And like I'm proud of that, because now 4 years later, it's like now I know a lot more, right? It's funny looking back, like you just said it, like you forget. I forgot how much I didn't know, right? And it's funny looking back now in 4.5 years, like all the industry knowledge that has come. Um, but like I still try to remember like the core values of the company for me is like providing that outstanding customer service and just taking care of people. And that's always going to be the most important thing. Um, and so, that was the first year for me, man, was just doing all the little things right so that I could win business and get jobs and start to bring in some money so I could really like launch the business to the next level.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that when you talk about starting a business, there has to be some obviously community centric parts of it. And at the end of the day, it's about how would you want to be treated if the roles were reversed, right? I think that there's like we'll talk about it in a little bit about people finding their why and those type of things. But I think you hit it head on when it comes to this is how I'd want to be treated. I'm going to do the best that I can, and and it's an effort thing, right? It doesn't have to be. It's not about years and knowledge. It's just about effort, and the effort to follow up, give a great customer journey, customer experience, I think is very important. So when you talk about for a franchisee or someone who's possibly looking to get into franchising, and for someone who was the only person, right, owner, operator, salesperson, etc., talk a little bit about where your day to day started and how your day to day has evolved in the 4 years you've been part of Mighty Dog.
Yeah. So, day to day for me in the beginning was like I said, it was just crazy. I was running around, running a ton of appointments, um, trying to get as many at bats, you could say, as I can. Like I was spending a lot of money in marketing, trying to get as many leads and appointments as you can in the beginning. Right. Um, so that was most of my days, right? Until you're booking a bunch of jobs, you're not running a bunch of projects, right? You got to get the projects first. So it was a ton of running around, doing appointments, getting on roofs, running estimates, all that stuff. And then on top of that, meetings with real estate agents, people in the community, people who could be centers of influence for me. And also just letting people know in your community, like, hey, here's what I do now, right? Because I grew up, what territory I own is where I grew up, right? Big family. We all played a bunch of sports. We all know a ton of people in the community, right? So I know a ton of people here, but nobody knows what you do unless you tell them. So it was important for me in the early on to let people know, like, hey, like I'm in this business now. And like I want people to know that. So it was a lot of that, just getting the word out, really. And then, running a ton of appointments. And then obviously, a couple months goes by, you start to get a bunch of jobs. So now it's balancing all that stuff, the sales and the growth of the business, like on the marketing side, with running the projects, being at the job site, grabbing something for the guys when they need it, right? Getting up on the roof. And I learned so much in those first few months. The first few jobs that we did, I would be on the roof with my guys, literally asking, like, yo, why do we do it like this? Why do we do it? Like, you know what I mean? Like, they taught me so much in those early days. And so then it was a balance between that of, like, I guess the way I would put it is like basically a hybrid between sales and project management for me, but also trying to grow the business too from like a marketing perspective, right? Like, I think that's where you can lose focus as the owner of, like, you're so invested in being in the business all the time that you're not focused on like building new relationships and trying to grow. So, that was a struggle for me in the beginning because, as you know, like, I really loved like being in the business, man. I still do. Like, I love that part of it. It's my favorite part. Like, my favorite part of this business is being on the job site with my guys. Like, I just love it. Now I know I can't do that all day, every day, or I'm never going to grow. But like, I really enjoy that part of the business. So it was hard for me in the beginning to kind of separate myself from that and try to focus on more of like working on the business. So now, I mean, I have guys who project manage for me now. So like, I'm not on the job site every day anymore. Sales wise, I still do most of it just because I love that part of it. But even that, I'm starting to hand more of that stuff off. So now my day is more focused on, still doing sales, but checking in on things, maybe swinging by the job site a couple times a day in the morning, maybe swinging by end of the day, making sure we're all good. But I have people I trust now. The same crews have been working for me for 4 years now. So these are guys I know well and trust. And so I don't feel like I need to be there all the time anymore, which is nice. And this year is going to be big for me in terms of growth. Like, I have some goals of what I want to do this year in terms of growing like the sales of the business and bringing some people on there. So, but yeah, so now it's about focusing more on that for me. And dude, sometimes I think back, I'm like, damn, I kind of missed that year one, like, craziness, of just like being in it all the time. But like I said, man, like, you're never going to grow that way. And so for me, like, it's changing in a good way. It's changing in a good way.
I mean, there's some good parts of that too, right? Don't give yourself too much flack on that, because there is a part of growing your business that I think it benefits from you still wanting to be in the business while you're working on the business, right? The people that work for you feel that. They don't feel like they're just a side note and you're working, you're doing other things. Like, you do a really good job of like bringing it all together. So don't give yourself too much flack on that. You said something earlier and I want to go back and touch on it a little bit. When you talk about, you said that you learned a lot from your guys that you work with, your, supply houses, etc. Can you just touch quickly on how much it helped you grow the business, especially where you are now, looking back at the vendor partnerships with, say, SRS or Owens Corning, and all the partnerships that we worked on and built together, that were just getting a ton of knowledge that now is probably much more valuable now than it was in the beginning. But at the same time, you've always had access to it.
Yeah, man. I mean, dude, I cannot speak highly enough of SRS. Like, my SR Marvick is Marvick Supply in my market. My SRS distribution office in Hatboro, PA. Like, these guys, like, were everything to me in the beginning, man. Like, I used to go in there and sit down with them and just get trained up on different products, different things, why we do stuff this way. Like, every time a new, I would have, because every time you're going out on an appointment early on, it's like you're getting asked another question that you probably don't have the answer to, right? So now you're going back like, hey, how do I answer this question? And it's just about like all these, there might be 20 frequently asked questions that you get from customers. And it's just about going down the list and making sure, like, can I answer all these things that I'm going to get asked? And so I was constantly on the phone with these guys, going into the office, sitting down with them, like, just learning from these people who have been in the business for 30, 40 years. So, I mean, the relationship with SRS, the supplier relationship, has been like everything to me, man. Like I would not be where I am without that relationship. Manufacturer wise with Owens Corning, I mean, they've been incredible. Like Dan Nolasco, who's my rep here, like, me and him first year, we're getting breakfast all the time. He's training me up on the products. I now have somebody like I would be on roofs on the phone with these guys, like checking out a roof, knowing that in 5 minutes I got to go down and talk to my customer about something. And I'm on the roof being like, hey, I'm probably going to get asked this question. How do I answer this question? Right. So just little things like that. I used to call Tanner because at the time Tanner was like running operations for Mighty Dog. I used to call him on the top of a roof, like, yo, or like Sabo. Like, yo, dude, I'm at a house right now with a customer. Like, can you help me answer this question? Right. So it's just funny early on, man. Like you're just leaning on everybody. Like you cannot be afraid to lean on the industry experts and the people who are in your corner to get answers. Because the worst thing you can do, I think, as an owner or a salesperson is a customer asks you a question and you don't know the answer, but you try to give them an answer that's not right. That's the worst thing you can do. The best thing you can do is give them the right answer. But the second best thing you can do is say, I don't have that answer, but I'm going to get it for you. And so the relationships I had in the business early on allowed me to do that all the time, saying like, hey, I'm not 100% sure on that. Let me call my partner. Let me call my supplier, whoever it is. Let me get that answer for you. And that right away is building trust with the customer. So, those relationships for me in the beginning were everything, like obviously the suppliers, the manufacturers, and then my crews. Like my crews taught me, like the guys that work for me have taught me so much about the install process, and why you do things the way you do, diagnosing leaks, all that kind of stuff, I'm just out in the field type of stuff.
Yeah, and I think that that is a testament a little bit to not only the power of franchising as far as vendor partnerships, but at the same time the power of franchise of having others to call on that are in the space, right? Calling like you said, Sabo in South Carolina, or calling Phil and Eric that are in Florida, whatever that might be. The ability to call on what we would call other parts of the team don't happen if you're not in franchising. You only know the people in your circle. You're competing with the people in your circle, and they don't want to give you any information that's going to help you get the job either. So that is a good thing to talk about in terms of franchising. Understanding that you have this vendor partnerships that's maybe 50,000-foot level, but then you have this team of people that are going through the same things that you're going through, or have been through the same things that you are going through. So that's a testament to the franchise part of it, but at the same time, your ability to also be humble enough to ask those questions and get those answers.
Yeah, 100%.
So my next part, right? You talked about learning a bunch from your team, and you said that your crew that works with you, works for you, however you want to put it, has been with you from the beginning. How difficult was that process for you? I know in the beginning it seemed like it was going to be maybe problematic to find a crew that you were going to, lock into. So for you, how difficult was that process, and how did you build up to have the crew you have now?
Yeah. So I guess first I'll say that was definitely a major concern going into the business, right? Like before I launched, right? Between when you buy the business and when you launch is like that couple months when you're like trying to get everything ready to go to launch. And that was for me a huge stress point. Like, how am I going to find a good crew? And I was very like worried about it. And then it turns out that ended up being probably the least of my worries as I started. And again, I'm just speaking from my personal experience in my market, right? It can be different for everybody, but there is such a surplus of great crews where I'm at. It's like it was almost like I was able to. It was like I had too many people. I was like, I don't even have enough work for all the good crews that I have that want to work. And so I was like very fortunate that the crew that did the first job for me, dude, the first job I ever did in June of 2021 worked for me last week. Like these guys are still working for me 4 years later. Like it's the same crew, which is pretty awesome. Now obviously we've grown a bunch. So now I have like a bunch of other guys that I work with and crews, but it's pretty cool that, that first crew that I worked with on the first roof we ever did is the same guys that are doing roofs for me now. So I was very fortunate in that way. Like I found a crew, a sub that I really trusted and we really got along and we still work together now. I think what's important on that end is so you have to have someone you trust, but to me, and you need to make sure, of course, the right insurances, all that stuff before you even hire somebody. But to me, it's all about communication. Like I need guys that I can communicate with, and we have an issue, we can get on the phone, we can figure it out. But to me, like that has not been an issue in my business at all. Like the only issue is like, man, I wish I could give all these guys all the work that they want. You know what I mean? It's almost like I need more work so I can give more out to these crews. So for me, that's been awesome. That's been like one of the great parts of the business for me is like I have just awesome guys that I work with that my customers love. I love them. They do such a great job. They're super loyal, and I would do anything for them, and then they in turn like do anything for you. Like when you treat your guys with like gratitude and respect, it's pretty awesome. Like what they will do for you. Like you need someone to go tarp a roof on Sunday morning. Like if you've been treating them the right way for 2 years, like they're willing to go do that stuff for you. So that's so important to me too. And like from the start of my business, that's been like a non-negotiable for me. Is like I'm never gonna make them wait to get paid. Like I'm never gonna treat them like that. Like I'm gonna take care of them always. And that pays off in dividends as you grow and you need stuff and you have issues with a customer or something, like they're gonna be, there to help you out when you need it. So that's super important.
Yeah, I was just going to say that's definitely a testament to the way you treat your guys, to have them for 4 years be around when there might be other jobs. So that's a testament to you and how you treat those guys. So when you talk about the business, and I know the answer to this, but I think it's important for the people to know, what parts of the business and the job do you find the most rewarding?
I mean, when you finish a job, whether it's a big job or a small job, like, and you have just a customer that is just like totally like satisfied and like happy with the way everything went, it's just a really good feeling when I can shake that person's hand and like they are just like, thank you so much. And I'm like, no, thank you for your business. Like it means a ton to us. But on top of that, the thing that is the best to me, like, and this has happened a ton recently, like customers giving huge compliments to my crew. Like people will be like, yo, your guys were incredible. They were so clean. They were so polite. Like they were so kind. And like that means like a lot to homeowners. So that makes me super happy and like super proud of what we're doing is when people are very happy with like the product that we provided them and the service, but they're super happy about like the type of people that we are, like whether it's me or my crew or like both, like that is everything to me. And like you get like a glowing review from somebody like means the world. And then dude, on top of that, like there's no better thank you that someone can give you better than referring you out to their friends and family. Like that's obviously the ideal end goal is that you provide a service so good for somebody that they cannot wait to rave about you to their friends, family, and neighbors. So, everything we do is in hopes of reaching that end result of someone being so happy that like, they gotta tell everybody about how great their experience was with Mighty Dog Roofing. So, that's super rewarding for me. But I guess my favorite part is hanging out with my guys. Like when we finish a job on a Friday and we're just sitting around, hanging out, talking. Job's done. It's Friday. It's sunny. They're in a good mood. I mean, that is my favorite part of doing what I do, to be honest with you. But yeah, I mean, having a happy customer is everything. You hope for that all the time. Doesn't always happen, but the more of those you can get, the more reviews, the more referrals. That's how you build a successful business in your community.
Isn't it interesting that one of the things you hear in training, you still hear to this day that in the home service space, that the roofer is the most least trusted home service business there is. So when you think about that, it's really cool to know how important it is for your guys to not only work that way, but be able to get those compliments. I think it's again a testament to you how you guys run your business.
Yeah, I mean, dude, it's so true, man. Like roofing contractors in general, I think can have a negative stigma. Everyone's got a story, right? Everyone's got a story of they got screwed over by a contractor, their sister did, their mom did, whatever, right? Everyone has some story of when they got taken advantage of or they had a bad experience, especially in roofing. And that to me, from the beginning, has been something that I was like, that's going to be a positive for me. Like that is going to, it kind of goes back to what I was saying about like providing that excellent customer service. I'm like, Dude, I can be different, man. Like I can be that trusted contractor in this space, even at those early days when I don't have all the industry knowledge that I really want to have. Like you can always be a good person and you can always take care of people and gain that trust. And I've tried to turn that into a positive. Like there's been times I've went out to do an estimate for somebody and they're like, yeah, I called 5 people. You're the only one who showed up to give me an estimate, which is a separate point. Like that, that's just crazy to me how that can even happen, right? When you're dealing with $15,000, $20,000 job and people aren't showing up, doesn't make sense to me. But I think it can be a positive. Like if you can be different in this business, you can really surprise people. And to break down that wall with the customer early on who like may be coming in with this uncertainty, like they're expecting to have a bad experience. And then you just come in and you can just provide like an awesome customer experience for them, like, and really make someone like, oh, wow, like this is not, I did not expect this to go that well. Right. Then you look great. Like you can be average and you can look great. You know what I mean? So I think that you can turn that into a huge positive in this business. Like what you said about people having a negative, like there being a negative stigma around roofing. I see that as an advantage for like people like us in the business.
Awesome. So switching over to the business owners, right? What advice would you give someone considering becoming a business owner?
Couple things. The first thing that comes to mind is my opinion on it is if you have that itch, it's never going to go away. I'm like, since I was a young kid, like I knew I wanted to own my own business, right? And like as I got older, that never went away. It itched more and more. And like I knew that was what I wanted to do. So I had to do it. So I think that's the first thing. If you have that desire that you know that's what you want to do, like take the leap is the first piece of advice I can give to somebody. Other than that, I mean, just know it's going to be hard. Like I think I think people get into business ownership and they expect it to not be that hard. And I think specifically when it comes to franchises, I think a lot of people buy a franchise and they think, because it's a franchise, like it's going to be easy. And like it's not. Like it's you still have to run the business. You have to put in the work and the time to build that business in your market. Like just because something's a national brand doesn't mean the people in your market know about it. Like you have to have humility when it comes to that and know that like, hey, I still need to grow this here in Bucks County. Like whether Muddy Dog Roofing is a national brand or not, like I need to make sure that in Bucks County people know it and people know me because people buy from people they like, right? Especially in the service world. It's different if you're talking about like a huge gym or a retail center or a wall. Like, yeah, you don't need to know the GM of the Walmart to go in and buy something from them, or you don't need to know the GM of the Chick-fil-A. It's like, you know that brand. But when it comes to service, like when you're talking about someone who's going to do your roof, like you want to like and trust that person, that owner, that salesperson, whatever it is. So another piece of advice I would say is like don't underestimate the amount of work you need to put in as the owner to really grow a successful business, whether it's a franchise or not. Yes, of course, being part of a franchise system and having that partners is going to help you, like we just talked about, with the vendor partnerships and the support and all those things. But and you have to go into it like knowing that you need to grow this boots on the ground organically as much as you can. And like that's what I've tried to do. And that's why 90% of my business now is referrals because like that's how we built it is from those things. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be hard. But I think, if you have that desire to take the leap, I think you got to do it because it's never going to go away. And I'm not someone who's ever going to live having regrets on things I didn't do. So for me, this.
I would agree. I think the more that I talk to people on this podcast and in franchising in general, I think that it is so valuable to say because there's that misnomer, right? That franchising is food service, right? It's McDonald's, it's Chick-fil-A, it's whatever. To which you're right. If you did open a McDonald's, you probably wouldn't have to go out and tell people, hey, I'm opening a McDonald's, come buy a Diet Coke. They're going to come buy a Diet Coke, right? Regardless. But when you think about the home service space and you think about good home services or even, take it away from good home service and just talk about those, mom and pop places that have been open. They're open because of their business, their book of business or their referral base, in-house recruiting. We used to call it in the coaching world. We wanted people, there's no better people to recruit for your business than the people that are already on your team. And so I think that when you you're 100% right. When opening a small business in the home service space, it's important before you open, which you probably could have done a better job of this. Before you opened, you probably didn't think I should tell every person in my network that I'm starting this roofing business, right? I'm not asking you if you have a roofing job that I can do for you. I'm just letting you know that I'm excited about this business that I'm opening. And I think when you do that, it lends people to remember, oh yeah, don't we, who was it that just told us they're opening a roofing business? And then you're cultivating those relationships, right? Having high level conversations and cultivating those relationships with, so and so down the street. You find out, especially for you, you've been in that area your whole life. So when they find out that you played here, or your brother did this, or good or bad, that you did whatever, they remember you, and then the guard goes down, and then you do a great job, and your crew does a great job. And so now it's like, if you have a roofing problem or sidings or gutters or whatever it might be, you should definitely call this person first, because he's one of us. He's one of our guys, right? It's our neighborhood. So I think that there's a lot to be said about the difference in understanding that even though you're purchasing into a national brand that's backed by a franchisor, it's still your baby. It's still your business. You still need to get out there and really, really drive that business and let people know that you're excited about your new venture.
Yeah, and 100%, and you need to do it even more than you think. Like it's super humbling, like realizing like I saw one of my friends out a couple weeks ago, just an old friend that I grew up with, and like we're just chatting. He's like, "Oh, what are you doing for work now?" And I'm like, and he goes, "You still have that seal coating business?" And I'm laughing. I'm like, "No, dude, I like four now. Like I haven't had that in 4 years." He's like, "What are you doing now?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm doing roofing." He's like, "Oh, no shit. Like I didn't even know." And I'm like, man, like I've been telling people about this for 4 years and people still don't know. So you have to continue to, you know, tell people like, hey, this is what I do. This is how we can help you, right? And to what you said, like you want people to think. Me and one of my friends who works in the finance world have this conversation often. Like when people think of roofing, you want them thinking of you. And like he's in finance, right? When they think of finance, like they want to think of us. So you want that, you know, situation where when something pops into someone's head that's like roofing or siding, and someone's like, oh, Chris Rahill does that. You know what I mean? And like that's how people start to, you want people to associate you with that service. So that like when it comes up in a general conversation, they're talking to their neighbor and their neighbor says, oh, I had a shingle blow off my roof. Someone's like, I have a guy for that. And for that to be in people's heads, you gotta stay on it all the time. That's why you continue to like get the word out about your business, promote your business, be on social media, talk to people about it, meet with people, whatever you got to do. Because don't just think that like, I told people I'm in roofing, like they'll remember. Like, no, they won't remember. Like people got enough to worry about in their own lives. They're not worried about what you're doing. So you got to continue to remind people, like, hey, like this is what I do now. So
Yeah,
when it comes up.
big or small, it's important. Whether it be being on Facebook pages or anything that might be, those little reminders. And again, to your point that you talked about earlier, and you want to be the guy. When somebody says, I have a guy for that, or a girl, I have a guy for that, that guy needs to be you. We want that to be you because of, and let's be honest, the reason that you're the guy is probably more about the customer journey and how you've treated the customer than it is the shingle color,
100%.
right? That's again a testament. So looking back, if you had to start it over and you had to do it differently, would you? Because I think you're going to be a little bit unique in this. Would you do it differently? And if you could, what would you do a little bit different if you had to start over today? Today, you're buying a franchise, you're buying a Mighty Dog Roofing. What would you do differently?
Man, it's such a hard question because, they're saying like hindsight's 2020. It's like, sure, I can look back and say like, man, I wish I would have done this differently. I wish I would have handled this job differently. But I mean, everything that happened for me in early on in my first year, man, like was a learning experience. Like, of course, there are things that I wish I'd done differently. Like, do I wish I spent less money with like one marketing service over another? Like, of course. Like, I spent so much money in my first year. Like, I don't even like to think about it because I'm like, oh my God, all the money I spent on this type of marketing, that, all these things that didn't end up working for me. But like, how would I have known that that wasn't going to work for me unless I spent that money and felt that pain of like, damn, like I spent all that and I got nothing. Like I need to learn from that, you know? And like certain jobs that we had that I messed up or like, I didn't handle the right way early on in the sales process that like, I think specifically about one job that I lost $4,000 on a roof job. Big job too. I'm like, how the hell did I losing 4,000, right? And like when it happened, I was like 4 months of business, like in no position to be losing 4 grand on anything, right? And like I look back on it now and I'm like, I think about that often still in other sales processes of like, no, that was a painful experience for me. And like I really learned from it. So I mean, I'm sure if I look back, man, and I put a bunch of time into thinking back on that first year, like I could tell you 20 things that I would have done differently. But would I be where I am without those experiences and like learning from it? Because if I wouldn't have done it a certain way and I wouldn't have, you know, suffered a loss in some way, like, would I have learned the lesson that I needed to learn? Like for me, the first year was all about learning for me. And I decided that when I started, like, I decided like this year, like, I'm not focusing on the money. Like, if I make money, great. If I don't, great. But I'm not going to define my success in my first year by like a profit. I'm going to define it by like, how do I feel going into year two? And did I learn a ton? And I did, man. Like, I threw myself into it in year one and just learned so much. And I'm so happy I did it that way. So I guess it's hard for me to look back and wish I changed something. If I would, it would probably just be, you know, where I spent a lot of my money and I was a little bit careless, I think, with my spending because I was like, it's a lot of trial and error, right? So if I could go back to and give you an actual answer to the question would be do more due diligence on your expenses and where you're spending money. Now for me, I was a solo operator. Like I didn't have a huge overhead. So I was able to come back from some of those big spending months where I probably made some bad decisions. But most businesses, man, they go out of business early because of cash flow. So some of these cash flow decisions that people make early on, like these are the things that can put you out of business. So I think just doing more due diligence, doing more research and like, you know, being more cognizant of where you're spending money is what I would change. But again, now being on year, going into my fifth year, I look back on year one and be like, man, that was fun and crazy. And like, I learned so much. So I don't regret it per se.
And do you think just from your own context that that is a little bit different? If I was starting my own Mighty Dog today, do you think that it's a little bit different now because there's such a bigger network, right? Like you said, you were an early adopter, but now there's people all over the country that, like yourself, have gone through these trials and tribulations, made these mistakes or spending mistakes, or not even mistakes, but maybe they're just like pitfalls. And so now if you call on the team and put it out there and say, hey, can you give me some feedback? Do you feel like it would be a little bit less dramatic because there's more people to call on?
100%, man. Like when we were early on, like if there was a new marketing vendor or something, we were all just like, all right, like let's see where it goes. There wasn't, 100 franchisees to message and be like, hey, is anybody using ABC marketing? Like, how's it going? Like, what's your experience like? So now it's like I can get on the phone with my business coach, Dan, and be like, hey, like there's this new marketing company. Who's using them? And he can be like, oh, hey, there's a guy in Boston using them. There's a guy in South Carolina using them. Here's their numbers. Call them, talk to them. And like that is such an advantage now that I can now talk to franchisees and be like, hey, what's your experience been like? So there's a lot more vetting that you can do. Like I remember early on, like I had no one to call. Like we were the first guys. So it was like, all right, like I got to see how this goes. And then, I'll be able to help somebody in 6 months when they try to make the decision, right? And I can give them the feedback. But yeah, having that, group now of people, like this whole database of owners that you
Yeah.
can talk to and figure out like what's working for somebody is great. Like that's huge. Like that's the best part of going to the conference, man. Like, yeah, the speakers are great and that's all great. But the best part of being around the other owners is being like, yo, what are you doing that's working? What are something you did that didn't work? Like I love like catching up with Phil or like Munchak or one of these guys or like Matt Zula, like and being like, yo, like what's going on, man? Like what are you doing anything that's working? You have any new marketing? Like what's working for you? And can I implement that in my business? And in the same way, like, yo, here's something that I've been doing. that I think you should try. And so that's great, man. It's really helpful um, to have that other, those other people to bounce ideas off and learn from.
Yeah. I can remember, like you said, going through and Tanner and I and Tony and vetting, CRMs and marketing, there was just a ton going on back then, right?
Yeah.
So for you, now that you're a roofing professional, as you look at the landscape of roofing, right, which is obviously humongous, what are some of the biggest changes that you've seen in the roofing space in your short time?
Pricing's gone up a lot since I've been in business 4 years. So that's a definite like change, but that's for everybody. You know what I mean? So it's not like pricing is getting more expensive for me, but it's not for the guys down the street who I'm competing with, right? So that's just kind of standard across the board. One big thing right now is financing. When I first started, like I wasn't really even thinking about offering financing to people. No one was even really asking me for it, to be honest. And then, the last few years, it's become more prevalent. So I have a great company now that was, again, introduced to me from, a Mighty Dog relationship, Watercrest Financial, who I'm using for financing now, who was awesome. So I'm signed up with them. And now it's like almost every appointment, I'm saying, hey, are you interested in, it's one of my main questions before I leave that appointment. I'm like, hey, are you interested in financing for it? So that's becoming like a lot more prevalent in the industry. There's roofing companies out there that 90% of their business is finance. Like that's not where I am right now, but that's something that is coming. It's here, and it's like you have to be able to offer that to your customers to stay competitive, because a lot of people, that's how they want to do things. Another one I would say is the solar industry. Like that's huge right now. Not something that I was really thinking about 4 years ago. Well, I mean, if solar was a thing 4 or 5 years ago, but now it's like a lot more people are interested in that. So, it's always changing. And I think that's why it's so important to continue to like talk to other people, continue to learn, bring on new partners, like, because it's always going to be changing and you trying to stay ahead of the curve. The AI thing, of course, is like now a new thing. A lot of people using that, AI assistants, all these different things, marketing companies. Like, there's this whole new wave of technology that's going to like drastically change the service business. So, trying to stay ahead of the curve and make sure I'm talking to all these different vendors and like implementing stuff in my business that I think is important.
Now, I know Mighty Dog, roofing, sidings, gutters, solar now, etc. When you first got into the space, did you solely focus on roofing, and have you grown since then and done some other things, or how did you start out and how did you grow a little bit?
Yeah. So starting out was all roofing repairs, roofing replacements. That was like it. Right. And then, it's funny, like your customer dictates kind of where your business goes, right? If your market, like I started to get asked about, hey, can you do the gutters too? And I'd be like, yeah, we can do the gutters, like, and then I'm like, oh, well, I got to find a gutter guy now. Right. Cause now we do gutters. I told them we do gutters. So then it was like roofing and gutters. And then a few months after that, it's like someone has me out to look at the roof and they're like, yeah, we're looking to do the roof and siding. Can you do the siding? And it's like, no, we don't do siding. And who are they going to hire? The me who can just do the roof, or the other contractor who can do the roof and the siding, and they got to hire one person. So I'm like, I got to make sure I can offer all these services, or I'm giving up business. So then we started doing siding. And then it's like, hey, we need the windows done. Can you do windows? Can you do doors? So like my business has like grown so much, man. I mean, dude, last year, probably 40% of my business was siding and windows. So at this point, I mean, you know, we do just as much siding and windows as we do roofing almost. Probably still more roofing, which is how I like it to be. But like we're doing everything, man. We're doing decks, like we're doing everything exterior. That's how I market my business now. Is like, hey, anything exterior, we can handle it because we can. And like it's such a powerful thing to be able to talk to a customer and they have 3 or 4 things that they need and they can get all of it done by just working with you. Like whenever, no matter what business you're in, man, like someone told me this a long time ago, like be in the business of solving people's problems. That's really all it is. Whether it's they need a roof fixed or they need, like something on their floor fixed, like they have a problem and they want someone to solve it who they trust and like and can do it at a fair price. So like it really comes down to that. So when someone has something and they need a full house remodel, like that is their problem. And like, can you solve it? And if you can only do one aspect of those 5 things that they need, you're not really solving their problem, right? Like they want to work with someone who can solve the issue. And if someone really likes you, like they're going to ask you to do all kinds of stuff. Like if they hire you for the roof and they really enjoyed the experience working with you and your company, like they're going to want you to do the windows. Why are they going to want to go through someone else? Now they got to have appointments with someone else, get to know them, like and trust them. It's like, no, I already like and trust you. So that's how we grew, man, is just continuing to offer more services. And now it's at the point where we can handle pretty much anything in the exterior construction world, which is super exciting, man. It opens the door for tons of big projects. That's super exciting for me. So that's where we're at now. And I love it, man. It's really
And that
growing.
and that doesn't necessarily mean, right, for someone who's listening, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be the expert in all those things. To your point earlier, right? In the beginning, as you're talking to vendors and talking to people, maybe you just also know a guy and you're like, I can get this done, but it's still under my umbrella and I can make sure that it's taken care of correctly and it's done that way until you grow that way. And then, underneath the horsepower umbrella, for example, if there's an HVAC, it's varsity zone HVAC in your area, and now it's like, hey, do you know anything about HVAC? Yeah, one of our sister companies also does HVAC, right? It just starts to generate business for everybody.
Yeah, man. Again, going back to solving people's problems, like, you need HVAC work. I got a guy for you. I can give you a close relationship. And like people like that. They're like, great, you can help me. I have people reach out to me for all kinds of stuff. We might have done a roof job for them. And lady texted me 2 days ago, hey, like I need my grass cut. Do you know a guy? Because she trusts me and my network now that she's like, oh, Chris probably has someone. And I was able to send her somebody who I like and trust. And he got the job. And it's like, that is just how you continue to grow in your market and your community, man, is like be someone who just is always looking to help people. Like you can always help somebody out. You can always help solve their problem and they're going to continue to refer you to others in the community. And then you just build on that, man.
And that's honestly how you grow your home service business, right? That's the difference in franchising in food and franchising in home service, right? The way that you grow your business in the home service space is you have a guy, you are the guy. How do we continue to grow that so where they call on me? That's kind of thing I think behind horsepower and Howie, right? What we're talking about it. How do we put all these people in one conglomerate and then to your point, solve people's problems? So in closing here, right? What's next for you? What's your vision? Do you see yourself scaling territory wise or just focusing on perfecting your operation?
Definitely perfecting the operation. I have so much room to grow here, man. The market in Bucks County, it's huge. Like I have Bucks County. I don't need any more territory, man. I need to be able to service the territory I have. So for me, it's about growing. I've been slow to hire and slow to like really want to grow the business for a few reasons, like financially a little bit. I didn't want to take on a ton of overhead at the beginning, but also, man, I just love it. Like I really do. Like I love being in the business, which can be a negative, right? In terms of like wanting to grow. So for me, this year and like the next couple years is about growing the business and putting some things in place to try to take that next step. It might be a little painful, dude. Like growth can be painful, like, but I know I can do it, and that's where I want to take the business. So, that's what's next for me, I think. And, trying to offer some more services to people and just, provide like excellent service. But the thing about growth for me has always been like, I want to grow in a healthy way where the service that we provide doesn't drop off. That's so important to me. Like the whole business for me has been built on just treating people with like incredible service. And the last thing I want to do is grow because the numbers look good, but then the service isn't there. So it's super important to me to do that in a way that makes sense for me and my business and where I can do it, where we can provide like the same service we do, but just help more people. And so that's what it's always about for me. I said this to someone the other day, like there's a lot of great things about owning a business, man. The freedom is amazing. The income potential, there's all these things. The best thing about it to me is like the ability to help people. Like you have such an incredible opportunity to help people when you are in the position that like I'm in and others are in who own a business. Like it's so awesome. And like to be able to take advantage of that is amazing. So, my goal is to just help as many people as we can. But again, there's business goals too that I have. And so next couple of years is going to be focused on that for me. I'm taking the next step on that end and just seeing where it goes, man. I'm 4 years in, so it's still early. It's funny to be like, yeah, it's been 4 years. It feels long, but in the grand scheme of it, like it's still so early. I just turned 30, man. So I'm like, I still got a lot of years of working and running this business. So
Well, at one of these days, you're going to have to settle down and be a grown up
yeah,
and not be able to. Yeah.
that
But I think,
soon too. So we'll see.
yeah, to your point though, I think that, when you talk about that growth and you talk about what you're looking for, I think that, without even answering the question, you've answered a question that I ask a lot on this podcast. I ask people a lot, like, what's their why? And it's been resounding what your why is in your answers to other questions, which really means to the viewer, to the homeowner, it's not a question. You want to help people. So you want to make sure that you hire the right people. And if those people don't have that same passion for the vision that you do, they're not the right person. And that's okay. But at the same time, you could listen to this podcast and listen to this interview and know that Chris Rahill's most important thing, he wants to help people. He wants to help people through business ownership. Chris, I just want to say congratulations, man. I think it's been awesome to watch you grow in this business and become one of the top locations that we have. So congratulations on that. I appreciate it. If you ever need anything from me, I'm just a phone call away. And to everybody, thank you for joining the podcast.
Thanks, Dave.